This team might just shock the world. Or not. Ever since the Warriors had that amazing 12-3 start to the season, everything has just been going downhill, and they started to become the most confusing team ever. Literally. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't understand what kind of team the Golden State Warriors were. They weren't Wizards bad, but they weren't good either, and their record was hovering around 500, which is only a few hot streaks away from a playoff spot. It just made no sense. And that was just the overall team's confusing circumstances. But the literal roster assembly was just as confusing. They obviously had Steph Curry as the main guy, but outside of that, there was no clear direction. Nobody was really a consistent scorer that could be relied on to carry the scoring load in specific games. And even in games where Wiggins was putting up great numbers, it was still a problem because defenses genuinely do not care if Wiggins were to score 70 points, as long as Steph Curry doesn't get to shoot the ball. Obviously, that's not going to be effective in the overall goal of winning, because if your best player is taken out of the game, coming out on top is a tough task to ask. So the Warriors sought out an extra playmaker and scorer in Dennis Schroeder, who at the time actually looked like a great choice considering how little they gave up for him. Dennis was putting up career-high numbers, and logically you would think adding a near 20-point-per-game scorer would help solve the problem of every defense constantly locked in on Steph alone. Well, it didn't. Defenses were still sticking to the no Steph Curry shots at all cost strategy, and it didn't help that Dennis turned into a completely new player on the Warriors. He was no longer an efficient scorer, and his scoring mentality went completely out the window. So what Golden State had was one superstar that opposing teams would do anything to stop, and a couple of guys that have the ability to score but lack serious threat. But then Jimmy Butler walked into town.
Let it be.
Butler sets up on three.
Butler steps in for the steal and slam.
Butler. Long shot. Good.
The Warriors now have a serious number 2 option, and everyone knows it. It's no longer just Steph and a couple of guys that can also score. It's Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. We're talking about a guy that managed to take the Heat to the finals multiple times when you could easily debate that as far as odds go, they really shouldn't have been there. But that's just it. Jimmy Butler has an unexplainable ability to elevate to a superstar in the postseason. So both of those years they went to the finals, Miami's opponents were never really facing the same Heat team because they couldn't account for playoff Jimmy. It's a huge reason as to why the Heat were still able to make the finals despite being just an 8th seed. In the right situation, he is a serious threat that needs to be dealt with. And what better situation than playing alongside the greatest shooter in NBA history? It's a partnership that benefits both sides because not only does Jimmy get to play in the most space he's ever had in his career, but Steph Curry isn't the only thing defenses have to worry about now, meaning more openings for Steph to shoot. But it's not just the acquisition of a real number 2 option that has changed the level of play for the Warriors, but it's what that number 2 option can do. If you're a Warriors fan, or if you just happen to watch a good amount of Warriors basketball, you would know that they have a massive free throw problem, as in they are incapable of getting any. But in just a few games, the impact Jimmy has had in that area is astronomical. It's no secret that the Warriors prior to the Jimmy Butler trade were approaching unexplainably bad basketball. Nearly every single game, there were dry spells so perplexing you would think they were missing on purpose, because that actually made more sense than them missing that many times. But with Jimmy Butler's ability to get to the line at will, those dry spells aren't as, well, dry. Because points on the board are points on the board, no matter how you get them. So instead of continuing to miss shots, the Warriors now have someone that can make the ones you get for free. And this was a major issue for Golden State because oftentimes these dry spells were so long that it made winning games basically impossible. The other team would just run away with the game while the Warriors sit around and let it get out of control. And with not enough offensive firepower, they could never dig themselves out of the hole they always put themselves in. But ideally, Jimmy would put a stop to this. Then you throw in the young guys. Quinton Post has been a hidden gem for the Warriors as he's given them the ability to space the floor at the 5 spot, which gives defenses a new look. Instead of having Trace or Looney rolling and stopping at the high post area and not really being able to do anything besides pass it back out again, Post can pop and instantly get a quality shot without having to put in so much work. Moses Moody has continued to steadily improve as he gets more consistent playing time, and Brandon Podziemski has been playing a lot better after coming back from injury. Any help outside of Jimmy that Steph can get will be needed, and the biggest young reinforcement is coming back soon. Jonathan Kuminga has been having his best season so far in his career. He's another guy that is able to go inside and draw fouls. He's just not as refined as Jimmy is, which is to be expected considering he's still so young. But more importantly, Kuminga is actively looking to score when he's in the game, which is what the Warriors need, because that was part of why the Dennis Schroeder experiment didn't do anything. Dennis lost his scoring mindset and began giving up open shots just to pass it away, which essentially broke the offense. If you're passing up open shots, you're most likely not going to get another one in the play, resulting in a pointless possession. But looking at a roster with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Jonathan Kuminga as the big scoring 3, I don't expect a lack of offensive aggression. Right now, the Warriors are sitting at 1 game above 500 and currently are 3-1 since the Jimmy Butler trade. With the Western Conference being somewhat tight right now, it is still possible for them to snag a playoff spot if they go on a hot streak and one team just happens to get cold. At the very least, I expect them to guarantee a play-in spot, but just because they may be low-seeded, you can't count them out, because like we've seen in the past, playoff Jimmy and playoff Steph are not to be messed with, and they may just shock the world.
Ooh, welcome to the Wild Wild West, where the dog don't sleep and the sun